If you are listening to this podcast, chances are that it is not the only podcast that you listen to. And first of all, I am so grateful that I am in your lineup, that the Cheer Mom podcast pops up on your phone wherever you listen. I so appreciate you. If you listen to other podcasts, you may hear a lot of them talking about paid subscriptions for their podcasts and Patreon and Kickstarter campaigns and GoFundMe to donate to their podcast to keep it going. And all of that is well and good. And we all have to do what we got to do to keep our podcasts going. I have made the decision not to have paid memberships, not to have a Patreon account, but to make all of the content on the Cheer Mom podcast available to you for free. And I have no current plans for any of that to change. I want this to be a place where you can learn and get resources and know that you're not alone and commiserate a little, which we will be doing in this episode. I assure you, we will be commiserating together in spirit. But there are some things that you can do as regular listeners of the podcast to support the show in order to keep it going. They will not cost you a thing, and most of them take less than 90 seconds. You can keep listening. That's helpful for number one. You can hit that follow or subscribe button in whatever app you're listening to. You can leave a review. For whatever reason, the podcast platforms have made that a super important part of a podcaster's journey, is having reviews. And so I'm sure this is not the first time that you've heard someone ask you for a podcast review. It's actually very simple. And you can share the episode or an episode that has been helpful to you with someone else. Send them a quick text. Hey, listen to this podcast episode. Those are all really quick and really free things that you can do that really go a long way. I really like the word really. They go a long way to support the show. They don't just boost my ego. You can also post in social media about what you've learned from a particular episode. Post in your stories. Tag me. I will reshare. I love it when I know that people are listening to the show, and your support and your feedback means the world to me. So, without further ado, let's get into today's episode, which is going to be all about commiserating about the most confusing things about cheerleading.
All the moms in the world, let's chat it up. We're talking competitions, uniforms, and all of the above. It's the Cheer Mom, yes, the Cheer Mom podcast. Cheer Mom, yes, the Cheer Mom podcast. Cheer Moms, your podcast is on.
All right, there are a lot of overwhelming, confusing things about cheerleading. That's probably why most of you are here listening to the podcast, why you follow the Cheer Mom blog on social media, why you've read any one of my blog posts or emails, because the majority of us walk into our first cheer competition, our daughter's first cheer practice, or our son's first cheer practice. Can't forget about the boys. We love the boys. We need more boys. Please stay in cheerleading. And we go, whoa, what is this? For me, it really happened for me in the consult, the introductory meeting with a random coach. It wasn't the director. I had met the owner, but this was the first official meeting with our athlete, right before her evaluation, and they had scheduled, we came in late and they scheduled like a private evaluation, and so they came out and talked to us. It was literally that 15-minute meeting where the coach was explaining to me how things work, and I was like, "What?" And she had already been in cheer for my daughter had been in cheer for I think 3 seasons by that point, but it was with a smaller gym, and you guys know the drill. Like, it was like a one team gym, and it was like, it wasn't rec, but it was kind of for the fun of it. And just like, it would be nowadays, it would have been a prep team that she competed on at first. But then when she decided she wanted to make the jump to a large D1 gym and really go for this thing, that first meeting, I was like, what is this? I was excited for her, but I was like, what is going on? You know, you're wind blown, like those cartoons where like the wind blows and it messes up their hair and you're just like walking around like, what the heck is going on? That's, I think, what almost all cheer parents feel like. And in some ways, that feeling never goes away. So as I've been at cheer events this season, I've kind of been just like jotting down little notes about like, I don't get it. That's confusing. You guys, I've been doing this 12 years. 12 years. And I still walk around going, I don't understand. This is confusing. Why do we do this? Why is it this way? So this episode is really just going to be a vent sesh and commiseration over things in cheer that just don't make sense to me, that are just confusing. Maybe you can relate to some of them. I don't have a solution. It's not like a problem solution episode where it's like, I was confused about this and then I found out it's that. No, not really. It's just going to be me getting on my soapbox and talking about things that are confusing. You ready? Don't turn it off. Don't turn off the episode. I need you to listen. I think one thing that we can all agree on that is confusing in cheerleading is the scoring, and specifically raw scoring. I understand it, but I don't get it. The scoring as a whole is always changing, and the emphasis is put on different things, and things that mattered 5 years ago don't matter as much. They still matter, but the emphasis is not put on that, and it's always changing. And I know that a lot of you are nodding your heads and you agree, especially when it comes to raw score. You ask, how can a raw score change from day 1 to day 2? The short answer is it has to do with technique and points that are not taken away, because that's a deduction, but it's points that are not given. You're not given the full point value. That's your raw score. And then if there's a fall or a touch out or a mistake, then you get deductions. So your raw score is the score before deductions, and then you get your deductions, and then that's your final score. I think where we get mixed up, I said I wasn't going to offer solutions or explanations, but I will for this one because I know a little bit about it. I think that we get tripped up with watching things like ice skating and gymnastics in the Olympics, and we think about the point value of a skill being executed. So I'm trying to think of an example. I watched a lot of figure skating growing up. There was very much a different point system, and we're used to, well, if you do it, this is how many points you get. And it's more cut and dry and black and white, whereas cheer, there's so much nuance and there's so many facets to it. And because the sport is young and it's growing and changing and evolving, that's always changing. So nevertheless, raw scoring is confusing. I kind of get it, but I don't really get it. I can explain it now in like a calm moment. But if somebody asks me a question about a specific raw score thing, I'm like, I don't know. Half the time when you guys ask me technical questions like that, I text a coach that I know. Or I go and listen to Jason on the Let's Talk Cheer podcast. Like, this is not an ad. There have legit, raw scoring specifically, there have legit been times where like somebody will ask me a question and I'm like, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. And I'll like find the topic in Jason's podcast and be like, oh, now I know. But odds are next season it will be totally different. So that's maddening and confusing. Moving on from scoring, because that's going to be podcast episode upon podcast episode. And if you really want to learn about scoring, I'm noticing there are two schools of thought when it comes to scoring and parents and understanding the score sheet. My whole career as a cheer mom, and it's like almost like a reverse career because like I climbed the ladder, so to speak, but I paid money instead of making. Anyway, in my time as a cheer mom, I really just came to the conclusion and was comfortable with just like, did they hit? Yes. Okay, cool. Yay. Or I'm going to enjoy my daughter's performance. And a lot more people are doing that, which I appreciate. I'm noticing a lot more athletes saying, I hit 0. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not invested in their team and they're not supporting their team, but I think there's a value to, I hit 0. I hit all of my skills and I'm proud of that. I love that perspective. Anyway, there are two schools of thought. There's like me where it's like, I'm here to like support and like whatever. Then there's the parent that says, I'm paying all this money. I want to understand what's going on. And I respect that too. So if you want to know more about scoring, this is not the podcast for you. It is too much braining and investment of time for me to constantly keep up with scoring. Go listen to Let's Talk Cheer. And he will talk more about the score sheet and scoring. Moving on. The team colors. Stay with me here. Again, my generation of parents, my generation and older, we didn't grow up really with all-star cheerleading being a thing. I graduated high school when the first all-star cheer team was invented, was a thing. And that's honestly, like, those are like 5 or 6 years apart, depending on which story you go with, like depending on who you think did the first all-star cheer team. So technically it wasn't the first all-star cheer team, but when the first Top Gun team and the first cheer athletics team came to be was when I was already like out of high school. So I was a mom by then. I digress. Our generation knows cheer as school cheer, high school cheer, college cheer, ESPN college cheer, school spirit, team mascot, school colors. Those things are very cut and dry. They're things that we can understand. But then you go into the all-star cheerleading world, and not only does your gym as a program likely have a mascot. Usually it's cat or weather themed or precious metals. Usually there's an overarching theme to your gym, and I'm tracking with that. I get that. And then they theme their team names as like a micro theme under the cheer gym theme. So back in the day, we were the Wildcats, and all of the team names were cat names. Pumas, itty bitty kitties, jaguars, tigers. Okay, I get that. We were the Wildcats and my daughter was a panther. Yeah, she was a panther, but not that panther. Anyway, then they got punny and cheeky with naming the teams. So we were still the Wildcats, but then we were the Cats Meow and Catitude. Cute. I like it. The thought behind that was you wanted your name to stand out because, again, a lot of gyms are cats or weather or something like that. So you want to have a memorable team name. So I like that. Then we got into you're the Wildcats, you're the Cats Meow, and your routine is Broadway themed. Okay. That's a lot to keep track of. All right. All right. Next season, we're the Wildcats. We are Cleopatra, which I really liked. I really liked that name. And that lent itself to an Egyptian theme. So I'm tracking with that. It's starting to be a lot, but I see the progression. I get it. Now, I don't know how long this has been a thing. Maybe this has been a thing for you for many years, but this is a new idea to me. Now, you are, we'll call it a tiger. This is just made up. You're a tiger. Your theme is at the fair, and you have gym colors. So your gym colors are like blue, black, and silver, but also your team, the Tigers, has their own team color, right? Okay, so to recap, you're the Wildcats. The Wildcats have a gym color scheme of blue, black, and silver. Under the Wildcats, you have a team that is the Tigers. The Tigers have a routine theme of carnival because that's what their music is themed after. And they have their own color that is not black, blue, or silver. I don't understand. I get being special and unique, and it lends itself certainly to many team gift ideas. If your color is lavender, they pick out all of the lavender things. I get it. I just don't get the why do we have to have all of these micro things? Why can't we just be the Wildcats? And I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. I realize it is not lost on me that Top Gun that we know and love, they're the Jags. They have Jag themed, cat themed teams. But that TGLC, which stands for Top Gun Large Coed, it's original but simple, they have a theme that has nothing to do with cats. They had a boxing theme and a EMT theme and Empire theme, and all these teams have themes. Like Lady Jags has a Bratz doll theme. It keeps it interesting and creative, but it's also very confusing, is all I'm trying to say. So the team colors, the team themes, it's cool, but it's getting out of hand, and it's altogether confusing. How are we supposed to keep track of all of these things? I remember when everybody had the same competition bow, and if your child was a crossover, there was no changing of bows and uniforms. Now every gym has 1,000 different uniforms and different bows, and even if you have the same uniform, you got to change out the bow. And not only do you have to change out the bow, you have to change the whole stinking the hairstyle. It used to just be ponytail, make it clean, make it slick, tease it up. Everybody is the same. Now you got to have the ponytail for this team and then do the side French braid down to curls for a team 10 minutes down the road and change the hairpiece. It's confusing, but I'm going to move on before I get myself worked up into a tizzy. Bids. What is a bid? We know what a bid is. If you don't know what a bid is, go back and listen to All Things Bids. But it is your invitation to be part of an end of season large championship national super event. There are select events at the end of the season that require an invitation or a bid to be a part of. And you earn that bid by competing with that brand's competition earlier in the season, and they have deemed you worthy, whether by point value, or it's usually by point value. You have to have done really well. And they award the bid at that event. And different events offer different bids. Okay, with me. I think something that's confusing for our generation of parents is when we hear the word paid bid, it does not mean paid bid, because I don't know if it came from college sports, high school sports in our generation coming up. I don't know if it came from watching too many sports movies or watching too much Oprah and Ricky Lake. But when we hear, at least at first when I heard, and I even had to confirm this again, like just a couple of weeks ago. I did a whole episode explaining bids, and I still had to go back and confirm with my coach, like, paid bid is this, right? Like, this is what they're offering for paid bids now. Because again, with the high school and the Oprah and the movies, we hear paid bid and we think all expense paid trip. That is not what it means. It is a high honor and very difficult to get a paid bid. I can understand that. When you are offered a paid bid, it means that the judges of that event thought you were so good and had such good merit that they want to give you an automatic golden pass to their end of season events. And for some, that means skipping a certain round. Anyway, go back to listen to that episode. But all it means is that they pay for your registration fee, for your athlete's registration fee. That's it. You have to get there. You have to stay in a hotel. Your athlete has to get there. If your athlete crosses over, you got to pay those fees. Yes, it's like a $250 on average price break. But in the grand scheme of things, when these bid events cost $3,000 for minimum, I think, for like a family to go and support their cheerleader, the paid bid isn't all that. It isn't all that. Work toward the paid bid. Be happy about the paid bid. But it's just confusing to me that, like, if you're going to offer a paid bid, like, pay their airfare and pay for their hotel. You're getting a slamming good deal on those hotel blocks. Pay for a certain number of hotel rooms. Give us a break, man. But it is confusing for those who have heard about paid bids or partial paid bids. Hopefully that clears it up for you a little bit. Next confusing thing, and this is an all-star thing again, is the pinning. I love the pinning. I think it's great. I get emotional when I see people pinning, and I smile and I giggle, and think pinning is a great cheer tradition. I don't know why it has to be a secret. I think because it's fun. But where did the pinning thing... Actually, I think it started at... I was at Oktoberfest in Munich, soft flex there, this past year, and I saw a woman walking around with a big board of clothespins that had messages written on them. And I stopped her and I took a picture, and if I find the picture, I'll try to post it somewhere in the show notes or on the blog post where the show notes live. But I think that's where, like, the idea of the clothespinning started. But now it's not just writing messages on a clothespin. Now we, and I do mean we, including me, we are painting the pins and doing glitter on the pins and putting QR codes on the pin and gluing ducks to the pins. The pin thing is growing and it's getting a little out of control. The duck thing, it's cute, but now we're like carrying around life-size ducks and life-size clothespins that like open and close like this. It's confusing. And it has nothing to do with cheerleading, other than it's good sportsmanship and it's really cute when the littles especially are like trying to sneak up behind somebody and pin them. I love the tradition of pinning too, when athletes are giving pins to the security guards and the event staff. I think that is so super sweet and cute. Last thing on my list of confusing things about all-star cheerleading especially is I don't understand the blush trend that is happening right now. Only a few teams are doing it. I hear that it's a thing for a certain team where it's like that's their thing, but I've seen more teams doing it. That is the like huge dark streak of blush, like dramatic clown like giving 3-year-old got into mom's makeup blush. Not throwing shade. If your team does that, I don't judge you. It just confuses me. I don't understand it. It's not, I'm a theater kid. I know that there are makeup hacks to make certain features stand out under bright lights. I know that there are certain makeup techniques that you do to make sure that your expressions are seen and that you are presented well or in a certain way on stage. This blush technique is not one of them. I don't understand the blush. It's confusing to me. Hopefully you identified with some of these things. You related to it. We can commiserate together. We can go, yes, why is that? Talk to me about it if we see each other at a competition. But more importantly, leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment in Spotify, leave a review, post in the Cheer Mom Hive Facebook group. Talk about what confuses you about cheerleading. I'm sure that it is not limited to just my list, but those are the things that stand out. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget, it's all just cheerleading.